Hey everybody, welcome to Waiting Room Podcast. I'm your host Kyle Wade. Today, I will shortly be joined by my guest Cordarro Patrick. We're going to discuss some sports, some music, some life. Um, I want to lead off the show. Well, most of you guys know me. I'm a surly guy. Not surly. I'm happy most of the time. My face doesn't say happy. I want you all to know I'm happy. I'm alive. I'm well. But some stuff bugs me. And I have this nice form of creative expression where I can tell you, you know what? Hey, this bothers me. I'm gonna tell you why. My lead-off story today it's the fighting in Israel. Uh, it's not specifically the fighting in Israel. For those of you that keep yourselves abreast of the situation, what's going on, this has been going on longer than any of us have been alive. But here's the thing. We've always placed ourselves on the side of something. Whether or not you agree with everything that goes on in other countries, what America does in other countries, we usually have aligned ourselves with people that are the good guys, what we view as the good guys. And I'm not saying that every person we've ever aligned ourselves with is a good person, but at the same time, you have to think we put ourselves on one side of the ring. You can't jump in somebody else's corner. We had multiple representatives come out today and basically condemn Israel. I'm not saying they absolved Palestine of their issues, but there's a couple things that hit me. Rashida Tlaib, I don't know if that's how to say her name. If I'm wrong, somebody tell me how to pronounce it because I don't understand it. I'm usually good with pronouncing things. This, not great. Rashida Tlaib came out and said, we must condition funding to uphold human rights and in funding entirely if conditions aren't met. Basically, like if we're going to do stuff for other places, we need to put restrictions on it. We're only going to help you out if you do this. If you do this with your money. And I mean, I kind of get it. At the same time, are we in a place where we should be doing that? When we say, hey, we'll help you out, but you have to do this. I don't sit right with it. And I'm not saying that Israel's on the right side. Most of you that know me know I value all human life, all of it. I don't have to like you, but your life is just as important as mine. So it kind of bugs me that we're saying, hey, we'll help you out, guys. At the same time, we're going to put conditions on it. My personal thought, I don't think we should. I don't think we should be sending billions of dollars, every year to other countries. It's not that I don't agree with helping other countries. Oh, hey, I think we might have our guest. Here we go.
What's up?
Cordarro, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Great, brother. Everybody, I'm just in the middle of our first subject, so I want to introduce everybody. My guest today, Cordarro Patrick. He's from
Hello.
Chamblee. I'm saying it correctly, right? Chamblee, Georgia.
Well, I work in Chamblee. I'm from Decatur, Georgia. Decatur, where it's greater.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm in the middle of my little irritation rant, so bear with me here. I'll throw it back to you if you've got feelings on this, brother. Again, I don't feel like we should be throwing billions of dollars to other countries right now. I just don't. We have a lot of issues in our country. To me, it's a problem. I'm not saying that it's the world's biggest issue. But again, if we're going to say, hey, we need to do this, but we're only going to do it with conditions, I think it's wrong. Which is why I'm saying if we're going to put conditions on giving people money, maybe just take a step back. I don't know. It sits wrong with me. Just to keep you guys abreast of certain things, I had to write stuff down. It's a lot. My memories. It is what it is. the fighting between Hamas and Israel right now, the militant wing of Hamas is considered a terrorist organization by Canada, the United States, the European Union, the UK because they seceded as if they were Texas, and Japan. There's some other countries that also fall in that line, but again, we're condemning Israel for fighting what amounts to what we ourselves as a country, not everybody, but what we ourselves as a country say is a terrorist organization. I think it's silly to make that argument. Again, I'm not picking sides. I'm saying America has chosen a side, at least politically. Politically, they've chosen a side and said, hey, look, these guys are bad people. I think it was 2 years ago, Hamas petitioned to be removed from a terrorist list to the European Union. And the European Union said, no. Like, you guys are still popping off bombs. You guys are still willing to commit serious acts of violence and death to do it. I get it. Again, I'm not picking sides. Palestinian lives are super important. Israeli lives are super important. There's not a one's better than the other. But if you want to commit acts of violence against people, I find it weird that we have our own representatives saying, hey, these are bad people. I want to run down a little bit more history with it. Hamas stopped peace talks by suicide bombings in the 1990s. They committed bus bombings, I believe in 1996, because Israel assassinated a bomb maker. It's weird, right? We want to prove that we're not bad people because our bomb maker's making bombs by bombing. To me, it throws me. It doesn't help me be on their side. In 2006, they resisted peace talks and would not renounce violence. They're just like, no, like we refuse to renounce being violent as our way of getting things. Again, I don't know how you say, hey, we're not a bad organization, but at the same time, like, hey, we can't promise we're gonna renounce violence. I feel like if you want people on your side to a point, you'd say, hey, we're gonna renounce violence. Israel's played their side into it in 2008, 2012, 2014 in responses to rocket attacks. I won't pretend I know everything, but I will say in 2008, 2012, and 2014, Israel launched military campaigns against Palestine as a response to attacks. Here's where it gets murky, and the numbers that paint it to where I could see why Americans might be swayed by it. In the 2014 attack, 2,251 Palestinians were killed. The kicker is 1,462 of them were civilians. It's a problem, right? Cordarro, you'd agree, problem, right?
Yeah, that's a problem.
Right. So here's the issue. On the other side of it, 67 Israelis were killed. 6 of them were civilians. We can draw conclusions. The conclusion that's largely painted of Hamas is they are willing to use their own people. They're willing to hide in civilian locations. It's basically saying, we dare you, attack us, but you're going to hurt people. And unfortunately, as however you look at it, I mean, you look at it, it's pretty bad just because Israel's saying, okay, we'll take you up on that. You don't think we'll do it? We'll do it. And Israel has answered the call every time. Israel has said, hey, if you're going to hide with civilians, but you're a military group, we might not stop attacking you. And I get it. Doesn't make it okay. And sometimes Israel's qualified. Sometimes Israel has come out and said, hey, we attacked this tunnel. And unfortunately, there were people in the tunnel. But it was a tunnel supposedly used for military uses. Again, I understand the issues going on with Israel and Palestine. However, I don't think it's right that we say Palestine good, Israel bad, definitively, because Israel's responding. How this all started recently was response to attack. Palestine was just indiscriminately shooting rockets into Israel. And think it's kind of a problem. We shouldn't just start popping off rockets, people. I don't understand it. Actually, I do. To a point, I do understand. This is both of those people's holy land, right? I'm not sure how much you know of that region, but growing up, to my understanding, Palestinians and Israelis both believe that the state of Israel is each of their places' holy land, that it belongs to them. So I get why they're fighting for it, which makes me think that they're not going to stop fighting for it. And as I said, America as a country, as a military, picked a side. They picked Israel. They did. Whether or not people really want to acknowledge it, we picked a side. So for our own representatives to come out and say, well, we need to condemn these people because they killed civilians. I agree that it's a bad look. It's one of those things where I don't know that I can sit there and say, well, again, we publicly have picked a side.
Yeah. I think one of the worst parts about all of this is that you got so many innocent people involved in other people's wars. You know, kids dying, people losing their families. It's just, it's just sad as a whole. I really hope we can figure it out. I think it's senseless. People just firing off rockets and all that kind of stuff. It's just, it's unfair to say, to pick a side and say this side is bad and this side is bad, Especially for someone like me, I don't want to look at one side and say these Palestinians are bad people or these Israelis are bad people, because not necessarily as a whole, they're not. I think there's a lot of people out there that they're just trying to survive and be with their family, not trying to get involved in all this war and all this stuff. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, and I'm glad you brought up the people, because of what's going on right now, because they can't reach a peaceful side. I'm not sure. Again, I'm not sure who else watching this that's abreast of what's going on there. Hamas is actually, to my knowledge, the ruling political party in Palestine as well, which creates a problem because, again, they want to be violent. They have said this is our land. Israel is our land, and they've all out refused to be peaceful, which is a problem because in that small area that is considered Palestine, there is currently a shortage of water, electricity, and medicine for 2 million Palestinians. 2 million. 2 million innocent people that, I mean, largely innocent people that, like, hey, we're not here fighting. Like, it's maybe they support Hamas, maybe they don't.
Yeah.
But again, it's one of those things. You do have a lot of innocent people affected by something that they shouldn't have to deal with. You look at it and you're like, why do I have to deal with this? Like, maybe they do believe in what Hamas is saying, but they're like, but we're not active participants. Like, we are Muslim. We believe what we believe, and we're going to keep it pushing. We're going to keep about our day. We really don't want to be attacked. Again, my issue isn't so much the fighting, because it's been going on for thousands of years.
Yeah.
It's been going on a long time. It's sad because it's just, hey, we believe one thing, you believe another, and at various points, both have been like, peace? Nah. I mean, Israel has at least put the front out. They've said, hey, like, we want peace, but we're about to attack you if you want to attack us back. Like, they're not just going to sit there and be attacked. And that people are just, I think America needs to take a step back. Say, hey, look, if we're going to do one of two things. We're going to be supportive of the people that we pledged. I believe Israel's part of the United Nations.
Yeah.
Either we pledge that, hey, we're going to stick to the side, or we're going to take a step back because this is human lives. We value human lives. But I think calling for, we need to do stuff to people in other countries, like, that's not, I mean, most people I know don't like that America's the world police. They don't like it. We have a lot of issues in our country to where they're like, hey, can we take a step out of these countries and maybe focus on
ourselves?
Right.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
absolutely.
That's where I sit with it. I want to share one last thing because it's the one thing that I agree with. Joaquin Castro, he's a representative from Texas. Obviously, I kind of like that. But he said, "Hey, the part that caught me," he says, "now we need to see a meaningful movement towards a two-state solution." I don't care. I don't care what he thinks with everything else. I just think it's important that people realize that I see no problem with the two-state problem or with a two-state solution, but I don't think it's America's place to do that. I don't. I think it's a thing. Hey, uh, we don't want fighting, but this is not our home. We need to take care of home. Maybe we do say, hey, until y'all get the solve, no foreign aid for both of you. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
When you,
But
when you take when you take away money from the equation, man, a lot of problems get solved real quick. And that's in a
right.
lot of things you do. You threaten to
And
take away money, and people will get their act together real quick.
I think that's what it is. I don't think saying, hey, we're I don't think the phrasing. I mean, maybe that was it. That representative Rashida Tlaib. Maybe it was just the phrasing she used. That hey, either we're going to put conditions on our money. I just think, hey, look, we're until you guys openly have a dialogue that says, hey, like we're going to work to be a two-state. Um, I don't know if you've ever looked at a map. Palestine, the area that Palestinians were given isn't huge. It's not huge. So I understand wanting more. And again, if you have a belief that this is your land, not the Israelis, I get it. But I just think it's a place where America needs to say, hey, you know what, guys, like figure it out on your own. We're out. I don't think we need to be condemning either side. Now, if we find out that Hamas is still just saying, hey, you know what, we're not about these peace talks. Give us our land, or we're going to keep bombing. Okay, like America stepped back and you said you guys are going to keep doing what you're doing. America might get involved, and I could support that. But as of, gosh, I've lost track of days. 21 May 2021, America step back, let them handle their business, and we can keep it pushing. Um, Realistically, I didn't really want to lead off the podcast with 17 minutes of me complaining about Israel and Hamas, but I woke up this morning and read that we had Americans condemning either side, and I'm just like, shut up, it's not our business, not our business. Step back until we need to do something. Step back.
Yeah.
I was really excited again. Everybody who hopefully we get new people joining. This is my buddy Cordarro.
Hello, world.
Cordarro and I have never actually met. Cordarro and I met thanks to the pandemic, if that's what you want to call it. And we are Xbox. Xbox brings people together. So Cordarro are in it. I don't think it's nerdy. I don't think it's manly either. But we're in a Madden league. We have fun. We talk smack to each other, and he's a good.
I made this man mad. I made him mad a couple of times, but that's what video games do. The competitive side of things.
Exactly what video games do, and that's what I'll tell people. Video games it's supposed to be relaxing, but you get competitive, and it's not relaxing anymore.
Right, because we're all competitive. I think by nature, most guys, when we play video games, especially Madden, we get real competitive because we all like to win, and we know it's a video game, so things that we think are going to happen don't necessarily happen, and we blame the game when we should be blaming ourselves. But
Right.
but I'll tell you what, I didn't know like Discord and Madden leagues and all this stuff existed till COVID happened, and being stuck at home, but not really knowing what you want to do. You ask for like all this time off from work, and then you get it, and it's like it's cool for like a week, and then that second and third week, you're like, man, I'm really kind of bored. You start cleaning up the house, and once you're done doing that, you're like, man, I don't have anything to do. So, this helped gain new friends. I played Madden longer than I've ever had before. Usually, after a couple months, it's like I wait till the next one come out.
Exactly.
But no, it's cool. I mean, obviously, it's unfortunate COVID had to happen, but you know, it. I would say, get some positive things out of it. Met a lot of new people. Learned there was a Discord for Madden. Worked on myself a little bit. So you just gotta, make positives out of negatives. So
Exactly. And I think that's one of the most important things I drew from it is guys like you. I met Joe. Joe lives in the same town as me. Didn't know that. He was just across town. But
that's
I've
nice.
actually physically met Joe. But but we've got guys in Georgia. We've got guys on the West Coast. We've got a guy just moved to New York.
Yeah,
We got guys all over the country to where we may not have been blessed to meet each other this way.
right.
And I think that's the positive that some people need to draw out of this is hey, I lost time with some people I knew, but I got to meet some people I didn't.
And I'll tell you what. You play these video games and stuff, and you be in Discords, chats, whatever, and you realize like you talk to these people like almost every day or every other day more than you talk to relatives and people you see at work. You talk to these people more, and it's amazing
Right.
how friendships can grow, and how often you're in touch with people you haven't even seen, or just people through video games, wherever the case may be. That's kind of how it is because we're in our little chat basically every day talking about everything, not just video games, just sports, life, everything. It's kind of crazy. Podcast now, right?
Exactly. And I mean, and that's the cool thing is we don't stick to just video games. We stick to what our aspirations are. Um, you know, for the audience, our group ranges from I think our youngest guy is 16. Our youngest
Yeah,
guy is 16. I think our oldest guy's in. Oh no, he left. Our oldest guy was in his 40s.
yeah.
Uh, so
He
some
was the one who started this all, surprisingly.
exactly, which is a bummer that he left. But that's the thing. So we have different eyes on different things. I mean, we black, white, Hispanic. We have a lot of stuff represented where you may not have. You know, being in the military, I've met people from everywhere, but some of these guys may not have gotten that opportunity to where I'm like, this is cool to be able to say like, I don't know this. Educate me.
Right.
Maybe not in such terms as that, but basically like, hey, I don't understand this. Like, can you explain it from your point of view? And we get what different people see coming from different backgrounds. I
Yeah.
think that's what I enjoyed most from this is not just the friendship from it, but just being able to learn from you guys.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Like learning about people, learning more about them. I'm one of those type of guys that love like meeting new people and getting to know people because you never know what cool things you'll find out about someone. And I know a lot of people when they think about games, they're like, "Oh, that's a child's thing" and stuff like that. Most of everybody who plays have wives, kids, and all that kind of stuff. Full time jobs.
Right?
So it's not just we sit at home 40 hours a day play video games. No, everybody has a life, and getting to know the people you're playing with on a personal level, it's kind of cool. It should never be any ending to how many friends you know. Maybe how many people you trust, but just getting to know people, there's nothing wrong with that. And it's always interesting because everybody comes from a different path or different walks of life, and we're all spread out, so we all come from a different kind of culture. You know what I mean? So things that happen or the way we are in Georgia is definitely different from Texas, California, New York. Everybody has a different experience, a different way of life. My kid lives in California. So when I go to California to visit him, it's totally different from being in Atlanta, just the vibe and how people are and stuff like that. And it's
Right.
nothing in a bad way. It's just different. California is definitely different from Georgia. So
Oh, yeah. I mean, California. uh, We can make jokes about California all day, but I mean, California.
yeah,
It's a unique place. I mean, and it depends on where you go to. Northern California, Southern California. There's a little bit of something for everybody, but I mean, I'm gonna be honest. California can keep itself. I come again. I go visit family there myself. My daughter also lives in Southern California. Um,
my kid's in Long Beach. Yeah,
it's just it's one of those things where yeah, we get to meet these people from different places and different walks of life. And as you said, people that have these people that have full constructed lives, and the two kids we got are just figuring it out. And honestly, I think that might be one of my favorite things is we get to talk to these kids. I don't, my oldest is 11, so he's still figuring stuff out. But we're watching, some of these kids like get closer and closer to adulthood and be like, I don't know what to do, and come to us and be like, hey, like I want to bounce this off you guys. And I just think it's one of those really cool things for us.
Yeah. My son is 10, just turned 10 in March, and he's playing basketball, living the California dream, and I know he's come down to Georgia a few times, but I know he's should be coming back soon. But watching him grow, talking to him through FaceTime and stuff like that, which we're so fortunate to have now. Couldn't imagine 30 years ago going through it. It's just interesting watching your kids grow, even from
Right.
afar. How he goes from playing with toys to playing Xbox and stuff like that. But what he's listening to, what he's used to growing up in California, and telling him how my experiences are down here, because he always asks me. It's it's fun. It's interesting. And I'm glad we get a chance to still share that bond as father and son, even though we're 5,000 miles away, 3,000, however long it is.
Right. I think that's awesome too. All right. So, as I told everybody when we let off the show, I want to talk sports with Cordarro. Again, he's from a point in the country that it's kind of popping for most Atlanta sports, right?
Yeah, you can say that.
I
It's
would say
always something.
but they're highly in the news. Whether it's the Hawks being one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, the Braves, little slow start, or
Yeah,
like the Falcons. The Falcons were at the top of the draft. They were one of the most talked about teams for
yeah, sure.
football. And like, what is Atlanta going to do? So I kind of just want to run it down with all of it because it's
Sure.
an interesting area to be because they have, whether or not they're even good, all of Atlanta sports right now is just kind of popping. It's in the news. It's something interesting.
Yeah.
I've got my guy in Georgia here to walk us through it.
Oh,
Obviously, I want to lead off with the Hawks. Where you see them going, man? Because I'm going to be honest, and you know how I feel about this because I've said it on the chat. I don't think your team can win with Trae Young. I think they can get to a certain point, but I am not a Trae Young stan. I don't hold it there for him. I've seen this guy drop, I think 40, and then make the losing play of the game, letting some bum get past him. So I got to know, how do you see your Atlanta Hawks doing?
well, I'll tell you. Number one, being a Atlanta fan in general, you never get too high, because disappointment usually follows. Um, you know, it's just we've been through it all. But when it comes to the Hawks, I work for the Hawks. I'm in this thing. We have the 6-man section, something that was created like in 2005 to help the fan morale because the Hawks were really bad from like '02 to '08. So it was a section created to get fans in the building to cheer on the Hawks no matter what. And it's been wildly successful. I met tons of great people in there. A couple of buddies, Jake, Adlon, they like head the group, and it's a great experience. In the last 4 years, the Hawks have been really bad. So we've been going through some years where we won 20 games, and it was tough. But now that they have Trae Young and they have Bogdan Bogdanovic and Clint Capella, because we stole him from the Rockets, you get that sense of excitement. But we know, like this year, probably I think we're gonna get past the Knicks, but we know in the second round against probably Philadelphia, it's probably gonna come to an end. And in the future, they got some decisions to make with John Collins, Kevin Herter. They got to pay Trae Young. And
Yep.
can you win with Trae Young? I think the answer is yes. But are you going to win because of only Trae Young? The answer is no, because no team wins with a point guard when you think about it. It's always the point guard is a part of it, but usually it's a shooting guard, it's a small forward, somebody is dominating like Shaq when he was there. So it needs to be not just Trey Young, it needs to be him plus someone else, plus a Kawhi Leonard. I know he's not going to Atlanta, but it would be like plus the Kawhi Leonard, plus a big name free agency pickup.
Well,
And that's something the Hawks don't necessarily have or get most of the time.
so my question with that, I mean, they can't only win with Trey Young, but looking back to the trade they made on draft day, do you think they're in a better spot if they have Luka Doncic?
I will admit, I wanted Luka. I was very upset that we didn't get Luka. Nothing against Trey. I wasn't one of the people calling him a bust or anything. I just wanted Luka because I just felt like he's a game changer. I think Atlanta may be in a better spot. It's kind of hard to say, but both of them are ballers. I think culture wise, it couldn't have been any better for Trey. He's down here in Atlanta with all the rappers, the Migos, and all that kind of stuff. It's like a perfect culture fit. And Luka's perfect in Dallas because they're known for having really talented foreign guys, right? Mark Cuban and Kristaps Dirt, So culturally, it's perfect. But I do think that Atlanta may be in a better spot if they have Luka. It's kind of hard to say because I think you make different plans to put players around Luka compared to what you're going to put around Trey, right? Trey, nothing on defense, unfortunately, but he has all the offense in the world. And Luka, you got a little bit of everything for him. So you may not have to go out and pay Gallo 20 plus million, Bogdan 18 plus million. You probably get guys for a little bit cheaper. And you may have more players that want to come play with Luka because right now, a lot of people outside of Georgia are kind of annoyed with Trey and the way he draws fouls and the way he plays the game. So, we know that, but now it's gonna be it would be different. I would say that. It's just hard to say. I don't think it's a lose-lose trade. This is one of those rare win-win trades.
Well, and I think you brought up something, and I hadn't even considered it, but I think you brought up something really important. I do think culturally, Trey probably is better. Honestly, Trey probably could fit in anywhere, but that you brought up the fact that Dallas' success with foreign-born players. I mean, that can't be overstated. And I think Luka potentially in a market like Atlanta, he's one of two things going to happen. I mean, that dude was wild. That dude's got a tiger tattoo. The dude's wild anyway. So maybe he would have fit in Atlanta. But to me, he's going to thrive in a place like Dallas, in a place like I hate saying Sacramento. Sacramento, it stings my heart every time because Marvin Bagley barely plays, and that had Luka Doncic. So I pain with the missing out on Luka, but it is one of those things that I had not seriously considered, but I absolutely agree with that. A place like Atlanta could have done poor things. Luka looks like a guy who likes to have fun. He really does. To where he might have got caught up in Atlanta.
Caught up with Lou, getting some lemon pepper wings, maybe. I think being Atlanta, being from Atlanta, we definitely support our stars and our players in all sports, right? But I just think he may not have been as embraced, no matter how good he is, like Trey is being embraced in Atlanta. I'm not trying to make it be like a black foreign thing or nothing like that, but when you take a look at it, you see how big Dominique is down here. You see how big Michael Vick was down here, right?
Hey, you still have that fight for Michael Vick, but he should have got it. You still have other people. He should have never gone to jail.
Right. Oh, man. I only read that playbook, but you got people down here right now that want to get rid of Matt Ryan, quick. And Matt Ryan's the best quarterback we've ever had. Right? They want to hold Julio Jones over Matt Ryan, which I don't want to get rid of both. But if you had to pick one or the other, you would probably pick, someone like a quarterback. But that just shows you that certain players are embraced because they fit the culture down here. And Atlanta has definitely a particular, I'm not going to say urban, but definitely a vibe down here. It's definitely a vibe because Atlanta United's down here and it's probably the biggest thing in Atlanta. The support they get, like it's none other. I go to Falcons and Hawks games all the time, Braves games. It's nothing like an Atlanta United game down here. It's just pretty sad that the MLS isn't as popular. And you got a bunch of soccer snobs that look down on the MLS, but us common folk in Georgia, we enjoy our Atlanta United.
I'm a soccer snob. I want you to know, as much as I enjoyed that story about the Atlanta players setting the league record, I then just shrugged and rolled my eyes because I'm a soccer snob and think that the MLS is trash. I do. I generally watch European football. Whatever's on, but I generally watch European football because those guys. I don't know if that guy that set the record for the MLS goals. I'm almost positive if he got an offer from one of the bigger European clubs, he'd be like, "I'm out. I'm out. Sorry, guys. Like I'm playing for that." And that's unfortunate. That's how I feel about it. To be honest, I feel like to get to one of those bigger leagues, and unfortunately, the MLS, the biggest stars it's going to attract for now until America ever really cares about soccer, because it's globally the biggest sport in the world. But America just it cares when it cares. It doesn't care all the time. But we get old stars. We get David Beckham. We get Ibrahimovic when he's old. Like we get guys. It's just past the time you really want to see them. And then when they're doing their thing, I mean, half the time you can't appreciate it because honestly, they're doing it against kind of trash competition. Not that there's anything wrong with the soccer players in the MLS. It's just there's a clear ladder, and the lowest rung. I mean, we've got to be somewhere down there. Maybe not quite that low, but we're not.
I mean, you got. I think because I mean, yes, soccer is globally the biggest sport in the world by far. But in America, it's so far down the list, and they don't care about it so much. Like, when you get MLS, it's like, oh, okay, this is only what I care about. It's trying to get into soccer now and not knowing about soccer is a lot because there's so many leagues. There's 20, 30 leagues. So most Americans don't get into it. So they just accept MLS. It's just like, well, this is what I like, and that's it. Not knowing that there's much better competition out there.
Well, and that's the thing is realistically you think of. I mean, I'm not saying all countries have a league. I'm saying a very large deal and probably more than people realize exists. There. Before I started really paying attention to foreign soccer, which, I mean, to be fair, I was like 18. I had the world at my fingertips because I was finally out of the house and can do whatever I wanted. But like that was one of the things as I started. I was like, oh, there's leagues in Norway, and there's leagues in Russia, and there's leagues in there's a few leagues in Africa. There's leagues in Qatar. Like it's one of those things where you're like, oh, like this is why it's globally the biggest sport. It's got the most leagues in the world. I mean, honestly know how long we've wasted talking about soccer. I never thought that I'd have that would ever talk about soccer that long because I care
grew
about
up playing soccer.
I care about soccer, but I like playing it more than like watching it, if I'm being honest.
That's
I
true.
never thought I'd get there, but
I like baseball.
Hey man, hey, it perfectly into our next one. The Braves, man, what's going on with you guys? Atlanta sets themselves up for disappointment, but I mean, Atlanta's probably got one of the best rosters in baseball, and they're pulling a Yankees, which I'm not too upset because I love seeing the Yankees struggle. But Atlanta, they've got a lot of good young players, and I don't mind seeing Atlanta succeed because they're not in the AL East.
Right. Well, when you think about it, the whole NL East is suffering, really. The Phillies aren't playing up to standard. The Marlins aren't playing up to standards, they just jumped us in the standings last night. The Mets are definitely not playing up. People had the Mets winning the whole thing, and Lindor has like two home runs, maybe. Who knows? So, but with the Falcons, I'm sorry, the Braves, it's disappointing. Again, we're one game away from the World Series, which we would have beat Tampa Bay. I think the
Oh,
winner of the World Series was between the Braves and the Dodgers, and we watched it go down the toilet. And we didn't re-sign anybody we should have. Like we had three guys. Darren O'Day, I think he's with the Yankees. Uh, Adam Duvall, he's with the Marlins, and Mark Malkin, I can never pronounce his last name. He's with the
Lance.
Padres. Melanson, and 11.5 million those guys are making combined, and we played Drew Smiley, our fifth starting pitcher, 11 million, and he's been getting rocked. So the Braves, a lot of us call us the bargain Braves. We're owned by Liberty Media, who is not necessarily one owner, but a company. So they don't necessarily care as much about winning as much as they care about the profits they make from SunTrust Park and everything around it. So it kind of limits what Alex Anthopoulos can do for the Braves. He's good at giving out 1-year deals. So 1 year we're really good. The next year we're kind of struggling, but we got to pay Freddie next year. That's also a big thing. Hopefully we can do that. But luckily we've locked down Acuna and Ozzy Albies for like a decade for less than $25
right.
million. So they have some options. I think they have financial flexibility. It's just, this year they're just really underperforming with the pitching and the bullpen. But it's a long year this year. It's not like last year where there's only like 70 games. They got time to turn it around, and losing to teams like the Pirates last night, getting swept 6-0 by Toronto, doesn't give you a lot of confidence.
It's a bad look, and I just want to say this: Mark Melanson, better not ever walk into a bar in the city of Boston, because for God knows what reason, and I'm fairly certain I'm correct. Boston is the only place that dude has been absolute garbage. But I feel like legitimately every time that dude goes somewhere, he pitches well. So I don't know how he's doing in San Diego, but you cannot say the name Mark Melanson in around people that love the Red Sox and not hear "fuck that guy." Because
I liked the Red Sox until they traded Mookie Betts to the Dodgers. It killed me because I knew that the Dodgers would be in our way, and if it wasn't for Mookie Betts in that series, we probably would have beat them. He played unbelievable in that series, and I cursed the Red Sox name for trading him. You could trade him anywhere else but the Dodgers.
I mean, you're talking this man. This man is one of the two best. You can argue whether it's him or Mike Trout, one of the two best baseball players in professional baseball. And Boston, because Boston's also owned by a very large ownership group that also owns, I believe, Liverpool Soccer Club, football club. Don't want anybody getting upset. But that was the reason they got rid of him. They're like, we have a lot of and to re-sign this young man would be too much. I'm just like, but he's one of the two best players. I thought he's best. Again, Mike Trout, fantastic. It blows my mind. We got me up a lot. Love it. One of those things where you sit back and you're like, come on. I hate saying it, but like at this point in time, the Red Sox are basically what we always hated. We're the Yankees. We pay so much money to our players, and I'm okay with it as long as we're trying to win. If you start selling guys down the river and your best, one of the two best players in baseball, it blows my mind. Yeah. I don't understand.
I really would have thought Boston would have re-signed him because it's not like, I mean, they had a bad season last year, but this year you see what they're doing. They're doing really well. They definitely would have had the money, but if you got one of the top two guys in the league, you tend to hold on to them and not send them to probably the next best team in the league, the Dodgers, make them even better, right? Because if you're going to the World Series, they're going to be the team that's in your way, and that guy is going to want revenge on your team. So he's going to play even harder. So,
and see, that's where I said, mind you, I never thought Boston would be good. I looked at our opening day roster this year and said, I think we have 3 major league players on our 25-man roster. I was like, okay, so it's just gonna be a long year again. I'm gonna do some late night crying. It'll be fine. I'll be fine. And they perform better. But yeah, you do think about it. Like, what if they're good enough to get to the World Series? And they're probably playing the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Realistically, they the Dodgers have a lot of money. They use a lot of money. It blows my mind that it's like, oh well, we also have and spend a lot of money, but we're not going to do it for one. It's upsetting, and I'm sure it's upsetting for. It was upsetting for me last year to watch him do so well for the Dodgers because every time he came up in a big moment against the Braves, because I was sitting there watching it, probably just as excited as you were to see the Dodgers lose. I wasn't excited for the Braves. I was just
It's
excited to see them
it's
lose.
it's one of those things like when the Falcons were playing the Patriots in the Super Bowl. America was behind the Falcons that year, right? Right after all
Yeah,
those scandals and stuff, America was with the Falcons. Most of America was with the Braves. I mean, the Braves have a strong following, especially in the Southeast, because all these surrounding states, Tennessee, South Carolina, Alabama, most of those teams that don't even have states that don't have teams follow the Braves because of TBS and stuff. So you had the whole Southeast rooting for us. A lot of people that hate the Dodgers, most of the West Coast, and we we blew a 3-1 lead, and that's blowing leads is synonymous with like Atlanta. You have the talent in every sport, right? And you get there and you just can't finish it out. I mean, the Hawks, they were the first 60-win team, first in the East. We got to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time, swept by LeBron and the Cavs. Granted, we were injured, but still couldn't pull one game out after having 60 wins. So it's just stuff like that as a fan it just kills you because you see the talent, you see the players. You're like, all right, we can do this. We can do something, and they never play to their full potential, and it just sucks as a fan. And that's why so many people are fair weather fans, and that's why so many opposing teams fill up our arenas because of stuff like that. And it's pretty sad. But Atlanta is also a place where there's so many people from all over the world that comes here, and that doesn't help. But I think now moving forward, I think the Hawks are going to do better in terms of having home support. I think the Falcons they should do better having home support. And the Braves, I'll tell you what, the Braves have always had full support, a lot of fan support. And Atlanta United has nothing to worry about because soccer's not as big. And of all the MLS teams, I think Atlanta probably has one of the best fan bases there, outside of Seattle and some teams that's been around since the beginning.
right. So you did hit Atlanta, and I know you said that you always limit yourself uh, in excitement, but Falcons, man, yeah, tell me, you gotta be honest. Are you excited for this football season?
Um, I'm always excited. I love football. Basketball is my favorite sport, but I love football. I love the Falcons. No matter how much they let me down, I'm gonna keep coming back for more. I can't
Oh
help
man,
myself. I like pain. Look, once you went through 28-3, nothing, nothing sports wise bothers you. I am immune to it. There's nothing you can say to me sports wise. Nothing that can happen that can hurt me. That 3-1 blown lead with the Braves, it hurt, but it didn't hurt me. I I watched. I called off work because I knew we were going to a Super Bowl parade. I was ready to go outside because I was downtown. I was ready to flip a Honda over. I I had looked up Dick's Sporting Goods. I had put down how much I was going to spend on Super Bowl stuff, and it didn't happen. That's right. And I have a picture of myself laying on the floor because I was walking to my car and I just couldn't stand it anymore. I had to lay down in the middle of the street because I was hurt so bad. It hurt.
oh, I,
Oh, it
not
hurts.
great. That's not great in the perspective of like I didn't want that for Atlanta fans, but that's why we love sports. It's also why we hate sports because we're like,
Yeah,
man, I can't deal with this right now.
it's. I tell you what, people. I know there's a lot of people that's not in the sports and it doesn't affect their lives at all. But
Right.
I'll tell you two instances. When I went to visit my son in California, it was the same week or the week that they had off before the Super Bowl when it was the Rams and the Patriots in Atlanta, of course. And being in California during the Super Bowl, I'm thinking, all right, well, it's gonna be a lot of Super Bowl stuff. It's gonna be like a party and all this kind of stuff. It was dead. No one cared. Like they don't care about the Rams in Southern California. It's
No.
Lakers or the Raiders, pretty much, and the
Yeah.
Dodgers for the most part. That's it. They don't care about the Padres.
It's sort of the Dodgers. It's the
Sort
Dodgers.
of, yes, sort of the Dodgers, but it's Lakers and it's
Lakers and the Raiders. Like it's the
Raiders.
funniest thing in the world. But the Raiders have not been in LA since what the 80s, and they will not let that. Hey,
Nope.
LA is the Raider town.
No, yeah, it is a Raider town. So the fact that the Rams are there, they're like, whatever. Like if the Clippers go to the championship this year, they're like, whatever.
Yeah.
But in Atlanta, it was like it was sunny outside every day, even though it was in January, February. People were just so much nicer. Traffic was just a moving, like it wasn't even traffic jams. You know, everybody got paid on time. Everybody got overtime on their checks for whatever reason. It was just sunny days in Atlanta for that week leading up to the
Yep.
Super Bowl. And I'll tell you what, the very next night on Monday, there was a Hawks game, and they played the Utah Jazz. And after being hot and 90 degrees in February, that Monday it rained. There was an overcast all day. There was traffic, and the Hawks lost by like 40. It was the worst possible thing that could have happened on
Just
Monday, February 7th.
the world just said, "Hey, it's gonna be a bad day."
It was terrible. It was terrible. But the aura in Atlanta though for that week was the best. It brought the city together. People were wearing Falcon shirts. People were saying hey to you all the time when you're in Walmart or wherever you was. It was amazing. So sports really brings the city together, and I thoroughly believe that the Falcons won the Super Bowl. I think the tired narrative that Atlanta's a bad sports town and people don't care would have slowly died off. It because they people down here they care about their sports. They care about the
Right.
Hawks. Surprisingly, people think they don't care about the Hawks. They care about the Falcons. People care, but it's just like they disappoint you so much that people don't necessarily want to talk about it or they make jokes about it. So it's just like, but I thoroughly believe had the Falcons won the Super Bowl, man, Atlanta would have changed in a way. Because when the Olympics came down here, like Atlanta kind of changed. When Michael Vick got down here, surprisingly, like the city of Atlanta, like the way they did things just kind of changed. It was just, it's weird how much sports can have an effect on a city, right? Because I'm pretty sure in Boston, with all the winning they do up there, it's definitely like a different vibe up there for everybody.
And it depends. You've got different parts of Boston, but yeah, I
Yeah,
mean it's a little different. I do feel like the city of Atlanta a little more dedicated, but to be fair, a lot of Atlanta I feel like Atlanta is one huge community. Whether or not it's different, Atlanta seems like just a very large
it
community.
is.
Whereas some of these other bigger cities do come out. It's a big city. The big
Yeah.
city, you care about who you care. You care about your friends, your family, and that's about it. Atlanta really does come off as one of those like no, like Atlanta is a community. Like we're all for Atlanta.
Yeah, it's definitely a vibe down here. That's what I'll tell you. We're definitely a transplant kind of city. There's so many people that's from so many different places. But I think everybody that moves down here really enjoys it and embraces Atlanta as a whole. So, despite sports differences, I would say, I think everybody down here really gets along and really creates a positive, happy place down here. I mean, I
Right.
mean, we do have our issues just like any other city, right? But
Right.
Atlanta's grown. I mean, it's one of the top 10 biggest cities in America. So in the sports market, it's actually higher in the top 10 as well. People just don't realize it, but it is. And it's just our sports team just don't back us up when we trash talk all the time. So that's all.
so
We just
so
all we want are our sports team to
name
back
of
up our
trash
trash talk.
in the name of trash talk, because the NFC South has this habit. The NFC South has this habit. Your worst team stereotypically goes to first. So what are your 2021 predictions for the Atlanta Falcons?
Um, so I like everybody who knows me knows I'm Tom Brady's my favorite quarterback, my favorite NFL player. But also everybody who knows me knows I hate the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So it was tough. Ooh, it was real tough. I think a lot of what Atlanta does hinges on if they trade Julio Jones, which in my opinion I don't think they are because you don't draft Kyle Pitts and not draft a quarterback if you intend it to be competitive because Julio is one of the top five receivers in the league still at an advanced age. So it just doesn't make sense to me. And there's definitely other ways they can get under the salary cap to sign their rookies. But assuming he does play, I want to say I could see them going 9-8, maybe. At very best, I could see them getting 10 wins, 10-7, because I think it's what 17 games now.
Above 500, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's one of those things.
I,
Literally
they
just they
they
literally just picked fourth overall.
yeah they play the worst teams in every division that they play.
Right.
So, and their games last year, they lost by average like 7 points. When you think about it, they're an onside kick away from beating Dallas. They're like two deflections away from beating the Bears. They were a girly stop at the 1 yard line from beating Detroit. They were an interception away from beating the Chiefs. They were a Matt Ryan interception away from beating the Chargers. So that's 5 wins. So they go from being 4-12 to what 9-7 on like 5 different plays.
Right.
Obviously, things can go any type of way, but just to say things go the Falcons' way 5 times, which isn't impossible. So it's there. It's just with Dan Quinn, then you had switched to Raheem Morris. So coaching does play a part. Luck sometimes plays a part of it. So they have the talent to not be a 4-12 team. Being that they play a easier schedule this year, and with New Orleans, I think with all what they lost, I think they're going to come down a bit. And I think Carolina's still finding their way. I think they'll probably be second, best case scenario. But you never can count out New Orleans. And right now, Tampa Bay brought back everybody, which is the first. I don't see them getting past them, even though we had them up 17-0 in the first half. I digress. Um, so
I mean, it's one of the things. Though. I mean, we saw it last year. We saw Tampa Bay just get absolutely smashed during the season, and then playoffs come around, and they turn it around, and next thing you know they're Super Bowl champs, because that was really their big bugaboo was, hey, they look really good except when they play New Orleans. I mean, and different things happen in the playoffs. No, I mean,
I mean,
I definitely see Atlanta being a playoff team as well. It's just one of those things. I'm a very big. I've got to see it to believe it. I think through the first 4 weeks, I'll be able to. I think the country
yeah,
will be able to say, hey, either this team's here for it or they're either way.
yeah. It's just hard to say when you have a new coach, right? We had the bland offensive play calling, Dirk Cutter last year. Let's run Gurley on 1st and 10 up the middle. Let's do the same thing on 2nd and 8. So, it was very bland. Gurley didn't produce like you would have thought he would. Julio Jones was injured most of the year. But now, you have a dynamic player in Kyle Pitts, right? Or from what everybody say, a future Hall of Famer already, hasn't even played a snap. And he still got,
Athletic.
he's super athletic. As a Georgia fan, I saw him every time he played Georgia. Um, so I know he's going to be really good. Calvin Ridley's awesome. Russell Gage, Zacchaeus. Like the Falcons have weapons. Never really had issues on offense. Just needed the play calling to be there. With all those weapons, Atlanta was ranked 17th last year in offense. I don't know why people keep thinking Atlanta still have a top 10 offense. It struggled with the play calling. So hopefully Arthur Smith can turn around, and hopefully the defense can be. They can't get any worse from last year, right? They were ranked like 30th, 31st last year.
They were
Historically,
bad.
one of the worst
It was
defenses ever.
from somebody who's not a fan of Atlanta. It was hard to watch them play defense. I was just like, I'm gonna see what the other game's doing right now until they're back on offense. I don't want
Right.
to watch it.
It's on Madden. Just play only offense, man. That's it with Atlanta. So if Atlanta just had like a half decent, mediocre defense, they could be a lot better, especially with the schedule they're playing. But you're playing, granted, you're playing like Washington. Or is Washington going to do the same thing they did last year? You're playing the NFC East, Dallas, Philadelphia, the Giants, who I think improved. But they're not the old NFC East of like 5 years ago, right? Dak's coming back from injury. You got Fitzmagic with Washington. Philadelphia starting Jalen Hurts. You don't really know what you got with him, you
Right.
know. And then the Giants, who should have made the playoffs last year but got screwed because of Philadelphia not wanting to win. So, they're going to play with a chip on their shoulder, but still the Giants, haven't been good the last couple of years. So you got them, and then you play Jackson. You get to play Tebow and the Jags, right? Because that's what
Yeah,
they're going to be known for.
on an opening day roster. He's a real good motivational speaker. He seems like a heck of a guy. Um, I swear, if that man's on, I'm gonna start, lacing up my cleats and throwing on some shoulder pads and trying out for
You
teams.
got a chance, man. Yeah,
I don't. I want to say he's as old as me. I want to say he's as old as me, if not
he
older.
is.
I
He's
just
30.
don't.
I think he's 34, 33, 34. He hasn't played 9 years, I think.
I'm about to say he makes an opening day roster. You're gonna see me next year, just trying out for every team I can.
You might as well. I mean,
I mean, hey,
Tebow is. Tebow is. He is. I know a lot of people are upset that he's getting all these chances and saying, Cap doesn't have a chance. And I think it's a little different. I think it's a little different in the sense of Cap kind of wanted a little bit more money and to be a starter. And I think Tebow, we all know, it's the Urban Meyer effect, right?
right,
So I think Tebow already, I think it was tweeted out today that his jersey, his stuff, is top 5 on NFL.com. People are buying out Tebow jerseys. So when they talk about Jacksonville, because he's going to make the team, I hope everybody knows that. There's going to be Tebow and the Jaguars. Not going to be Trevor Lawrence or anything like that. No, it's going to be the Tebow-led Jaguars, even though he's going to be like third string tight end.
and
So,
that again, good for. I mean, I don't want to hit too much on the
Tebow.
the Kaepernick Tebow stuff.
Yeah, nah, man. That's
But
ridiculous.
realistically, I do think there's a difference. I mean, Tim Tebow, he played on the punt team as the guy protecting the punter. Colin Kaepernick is a quarterback. I'm gonna say maybe some popular stuff, but he also said some stuff about owners, or his partner said some stuff about owners that kind of stopped him from getting a job. And it's not that I don't think he's deserving of a job because he thinks, feels, believes certain things, but I do think it's harder to bring yourself in to say, hey, I can only do this. Also, I have this side work that's really important to me. And if
I mean, everybody knows Cap is not one of the 64 worst quarterbacks in the league. Everybody knows it's a little bit more complicated with him, from a business standpoint, I would say for a lot of teams. And same with Tebow, it's a business standpoint. We know why he's in Jacksonville. They were the worst team last year. His connections with Urban Meyer. He's like the godson of Jacksonville, with Florida, high school, now the Jags. So, I mean, from a business standpoint, it makes sense to bring him in, but not to get in the Tebow Kaepernick kind of thing. But I mean, I think everybody who watches sports understands. May not be happy with it, but
Right.
a business is a business.
Business is a business. I think we've hit all we need to on sports. You did say you wanted to speak a little bit about social climate, which I do think it's a pretty decent segue going from T-Bone Kaepernick to
Right.
talking about social climate. For you, again, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but it being that we're in different places, we have different backgrounds. What are the differences you're seeing? Um, and I mean, do you think there's specific reasons for it? I mean, from just you go 6 months, you go a year. What are the differences you've seen over the last year that you wanted to talk about?
Well, I think down in Atlanta, I would say just to speak on Atlanta, I think a lot of things that we've endured in this past year with COVID, the presidency, I think has been like a hot topic down here outside of sports and all that stuff. But especially because, Georgia recently became a blue state. And then you had all this fraud stuff. Now you're having Brian Kemp uh, changing the way you can vote down here and stuff like that. So it's been a interesting like power struggle in a sense. Like I drove downtown past the Capitol and they have like the military out, like legit, like around the Capitol because
Hmm.
they're, trying to be on their P's and Q's, especially what happened after January 6th, right? I'm pretty sure a lot of places are like that. But down
Yeah.
here, especially, with Brian Kemp and you got Stacey Adams, who's become a major political figure, I would say. Um, and with Georgia for the first time since Jimmy Carter or Clinton being a blue state, it's been interesting. You drive in Metro Atlanta, and a lot of these places, you see signs that have the Black Lives Matters things, or you see um, stuff that's representing Stacey Adams, like her signs and stuff, and Ossoff and Warnock, and I've seen messages having people upset, like stop stealing my Warnock signs, like all that stuff is like still up, and it's like people are just, it seems to be more happy with the outcome of these this race and with the way things are going. But it is still a political struggle. I think the biggest thing down here right now is the mask thing. Now, a lot of places, Georgia's basically opened up when it comes to masks, but all these same businesses are like, no, you still have to wear a mask. But now they're starting to say, all right, if you're vaccinated, you don't need a mask and stuff. And we're going to the honor system. I went to the Braves game. No one had a mask on. They talked about getting vaccine shots. People booed it. So it's still like, it's interesting. I went to Atlanta United, no mask. But I went to Hawks game, they don't mess around. You gotta wear a mask. Matter of fact, you have to check in through an app saying that you don't have COVID basically to get into the game.
Okay.
So it's still a little different. It's still everybody's trying to get on the same page. But I would say culturally, like the city has really come together in the metro Atlanta area. Now, outside, OTP as we call it, outside of the perimeter 285, it might be a little different, but that's how hot and cold it is in Georgia. It's really something else because if you look at the map, and I'm sorry to get political, like most of Georgia, you see, oh, it's red, red, but those blue spots you see in the middle, they're heavy blue spots. I'm talking about
Yeah. Of
millions, right? Those red spots are like hundred
course.
thousands. So everybody's just kind of trying to work together, kind of, but politically, like I think people like hate Brian Kemp for the most part. Um, but people are trying to work together. I think people are just trying to respect each other. I would say more so than what we have the last 4 years. I would put it like that.
I mean, I mean this political topic, whether or not we want to say
It
this,
is.
but I mean, do you think it's the change in the president, or do you think it's something else?
I think I think It's definitely has something to do with the changing of the presidents. Um, I don't think in the United States in general we've never had a president as polarizing from the last one we just had, Trump, right? He was probably the most polarizing president for good or for worse that we've ever had, more so
Con-
than Reagan or any
the
of them.
most controversial. I would say the
Yes,
most. I'd say the most
yes, most
polarized.
controversial.
I'd say the most polarizing is probably still Barack Obama because he was the first black president. He did
I
a lot
agree with that.
of good. Depending on how you feel, towards the end, he did some bad. I'd say the most controversial president that we've had, at least in our lifetime, maybe ever, was definitely Donald Trump.
I think the one good thing that Trump did is that he brought more eyes on politics. I had like my instructors at my job who are 16, 17, pay attention to politics probably more this past election and be like outspoken about what they feel or what they believe in, more so than before with Obama or, because I think with Obama, he went against Romney and rest his soul, I'm drawing a blank.
John McCain.
McCain, there we go. And it wasn't that much of, controversy and stuff, but with Trump, like with the things he said and things he done, it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. But he also has a strong support group. So everybody had an opinion. Everybody seemed to get more involved in politics. But one of the unfortunate parts was that I think everything did get political. Like wearing masks is not a it's a political issue, not a health issue, which I think kind of made things worse because instead of let's wear a mask or let's do this or let's take a vaccine shot, when most people when they think about it, oh, this is a political thing, or oh, the left are trying to lock us down, or the right don't care about our health. Everything just got political. Everything you say, everything you do, and it's even with sports. It's just I think that's the worst
Yep.
part. Everything is political now,
I,
but it
I,
did raise more attention to it.
and I would say I'd say I'd agree. I think everything has gotten a little more political, and I get it. It's just it's one of those things. I mean, I think even just in our Discord chat, we've had disagreements about stuff, and at a certain point, we kind of agree that we disagree about it, and that's the end of it. And I think it's easier to do in smaller groups where you all, I would say we all like each other, um, in our league, to where it's one of those things. Like bigger groups, it's really hard to get a few 100 million people on the same page. Like, hey, we can disagree. You feel this way, I feel this way. Disagree, however, that's fine. You have a good day, I'll have a good day. Keep it pushing, and it it it's a little upsetting. Again, I will
It
this dead horse until my show gets canceled or until until I stop doing it. But I care about people. I care about everybody. I don't unless you're actively trying to harm people, maybe passively trying to harm people. Unless you're trying to do evil towards somebody else, I care about everyone to the point where it's like, oh, you disagree with me? Does your disagreement actually hurt me?
right.
Now that I understand that there are some topics that's maybe built for another pod, but there are some topics where people feel like, hey, this could hurt me. This could hurt my friends. Could hurt my family member. I understand that, but again, masks, vaccinations. I feel like it's one of those things where it's like, hey, you want to wear a mask? Cool. I don't want to. That's fine. You want to get vaccinated? Cool. I don't want to. That's fine. It's those little things like that where you should be able to look your friend, us. You should be able to look a stranger in the eye and say, "Hey, this is how I feel about this," and be like, "Okay, well, I disagree." That's it. That's it. Not anything crazy. Not a heated argument. I understand where those feelings come.
100%. It's weird. This mask thing is kind of like religion in a sense. It's like, oh, you believe in wearing masks, and or you don't believe. Like I'm like you. I feel like there are still tons of people out there that have health issues and stuff like that, and I think you know if you want to wear a mask to respect others, you should do it. But I don't think someone should jump in your face for wearing it. Why are you not wearing a mask, or why are you wearing a mask? I think that's when it's a little bit too much. And I think that people should not be bashed for their decisions. I think, like you say, you should be able to agree to disagree and try to respect others' opinions. And obviously, if people want to wear a mask, I don't think you should be upset with them because they want to wear a mask. That's all I'm saying. It seems to be more people surprisingly get upset with people who wear masks than don't. You know, it's weird.
Uh,
Most people
and
who wear masks just let other people just like, all right, I'm gonna go the opposite way, or I'm gonna just stay at home, or I'm not gonna do this.
right.
It's
I'd agree with you there. I'd wholly agree. And I do think it's silly. Um, but I think a lot of things right now are silly. I don't think some of the issues going on right now are as silly. I think getting on the same page as people and going back to the, you know what, hey, I disagree with you, but you're my fellow man. I do believe that we need to get back to that. We need to get back to, hey, you disagree. Okay, that's it. That's it. There's not
yeah.
a
I
there does
it's
not need to be a long-winded or angry response to it. So we disagree, and that's okay.
I think everybody, especially here in Atlanta, we want to get back to normal, right? Some sense of normalcy. We want to go back to being with all our friends. We want to go back to, like, for me with swimming, like we want to have our swim meets, and we all want to, have our pool parties and all that kind of stuff. And I think it gets to a point where people are just like, all right, whatever I have to do to get back to that, I'm willing. Like, I think people are just wore down of fighting and arguing over nonsense. Ultimately, I think we all want what's best for our kids, right? And
Right.
because it's been tough on them, I feel so bad for the high schoolers and college kids that had to graduate last year virtually, right? That missing out on proms and all that kind of stuff. So I think the world, we just want some sense of normalcy. And I think a lot of people are just breaking down and just not trying to argue, just like whatever I can do. I think we're all wore out, right? So hopefully, I think things are changing for the better down here. I want to say it is, even though we were never the super strict on restrictions and stuff, right? Like California or New York. We,
Right.
we're more on the Florida, Texas route of things, but I think people were responsible for the most part down here. Maybe not for the All Star game when they had like 10 clubs open, but outside of that, I think
Hey,
people down here have been
we're all
responsible.
we're all trying to figure it out. I know
Oh
it's a
yeah,
scary thought, but I think if the powers that be, whatever you look at it, is in charge of the situation, if they just came out and said, "Hey, we don't know, but we're working on it. We'll we'll keep you informed." I think if they came out and said that, "Hey, we don't know. We really don't." That's been my belief from the beginning. Is they don't know what this is. They don't know how to deal with it. They're working hard, but they also know people are fearful. And hearing the words from the people that you trust, or maybe you don't trust the most, but hearing the words, "I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to fix it." Those words, they scare people, and I get it. But I
yeah,
think if they said that, I think that would put a lot more logical minds at ease. Uh, just to say, hey, look, we don't know, but we are working on it and we are trying for the people. One thing you caught me with, and we've been on here for an hour and 19 minutes, and I have not mentioned the reason that I brought you on here is I wanted to hear your story. You brought up swimming. Um, so I just want you to take a minute. I want you to share your story. I want you to share what it is you do.
okay, sure. So I work at a place called Dynamo Swim Club. It's in Chandler, Georgia. It's been around since I want to say the 50s or maybe 60s. It's been around for a long time. It's produced a lot of good swimmers. We recently had a guy named Gunner go to the Olympics, get a gold medal. So it's a swim club. We offer swim teams, swim lessons, things for elderly people to do like aerobics and stuff like that. And I've been in that job for about 14 years. And it's kind of surprising because growing up, I didn't do swim team. I never taught lessons. I never did any of that stuff. I did, your cool sports, as I would say, basketball, football, baseball, soccer, right? Swimming,
Right.
especially for a Black African American, was not always that high on the list. So it's kind of funny now that I've been there 14 years and I love every second of it. Um, I run the swim lesson program there. The best thing about being at Dynamo or that I like is being able to teach kids because I love kids. And also with my instructors, teach them responsibility of having a job and watching them grow, go off to college or get better, bigger jobs and become good people because for a lot of teens, it's their first job. So it's my job to try to introduce them to being responsible, being able to manage school, manage having a job, and also enjoy themselves and be able to bounce to because anybody who knows when you go to college, that's pretty much what you're going to have to do. Try to work to have some extra money and then try to balance your schoolwork, you know, for a lot of kids that have to do that. So I love it. I also coach at this place, a summer league pool. It's a community pool called Echo Ridge. And I've been there for like 10 years myself. Our shirt is like right there behind. I didn't do it
That, that,
intentionally,
that,
but
that
it is right there.
that's actually great branding. I don't know if you intended
Right.
to do it that way,
I
but
did, but it worked out.
there you go.
Basically, it's like a bunch of neighborhood pools because there's tons of neighborhood pools in Atlanta, and and there's a big old league called ASA Atlanta Swim League, and they swim against each other. Right? We go to their pool, they come to our pool, and we have like a swim meet. Now, again, growing up, I knew none of this existed, but it's a big thing. So trying to get doing that and doing swim lessons is something I never expected to do, but swimming is still like one of the top five causes of death. So many people drown still. Like someone today died because they drowned in Lake Lanier, which for anybody in Georgia knows Lake Lanier takes souls. If you
Okay.
go on Twitter and see Lake Lanier trending, you know somebody's died because they drowned. And it's sad and unfortunate. I'm not really trying to laugh about it, but it's still, a life learning skill. So all that kind of stuff to me is important. Most importantly is the children that are important to me and being able to give back and do that kind of stuff. Um, and how I got into it was my buddy was like, "Hey man, you want to teach swim lessons?" And I think I was in school and working at National Tire and Battery, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And who would have thought 14 years later, I'm still there doing it. So it's been a cool experience. I've been able to meet a lot of people. I've been able to teach ex football players and current football players, because people want to learn how to swim and it's never too late. So if you don't know how to swim, it's never too late. It's not embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's
So I
just
mean, so was there like you had a buddy suggest the job to you, but I mean was there ever something that like that you stayed for 14 years? So was there ever something that led you to think like, man, like I think this might be it. This might be my calling. This is something I really feel is important. Was there ever that moment or no?
I would say yes. I again, like I said, I never been involved in swimming like that until I got into it. I'll say the first couple of years were a little rough, but just learning how to teach kids and learn how to like play with them, but also teach them. It's a balance. And then after a while, I was like, man, I'm really good at this, right? And I started doing like a lot of private lessons, which pay a little extra money on the side. And I started realizing like I'm actually really good at this. And then I got put in charge of it, and I was like, man, this isn't too bad. It just started coming naturally. Like I was like, man, this is fun. I don't mind doing this. Now, I do have ambitions of, one day owning my own pool, but I did quickly learn that trying to start your own swim program is very expensive, like in the millions expensive. So you got to kind of start slow and build yourself up because
Right.
pool
So
expenses.
okay, so you say you want to start the school, uh, costly endeavor. Uh, what is your goal with the school though? I mean, do you have Olympic aspirations, or are you just looking? Honestly, you come off as somebody who just likes education, and that comes in many forms. But in the vein of teaching people how to swim, I mean, that's important. Is it educational or is it something bigger?
I think is definitely more educational because during the Olympics, obviously there's like a 1% chance that your child or someone's going to be in the Olympics. So trying to give off false hope, like, yeah, your kids can be in the Olympics, which they can, but in swimming, for whatever reason, it's like you kind of got to have the body, the height to really be phenomenal. Where in other sports, you can kind of just practice and really be good. Swimming has the talent factor and kind of the body factor, which is kind of unfair. But for me, what's more fulfilling is the educational part of it because it's so important that so many people just do not know how to swim. So me
Oh,
trying to
I
teach,
would say it. People don't realize it. I didn't realize it. My last active duty military station was in 2015, and I had a friend who was in his late 30s, and we had asked if he wanted to go to the pool because it was a hot summer day in Washington. Not many of those exist, but it was a hot summer day in Washington. We asked him if he wanted to go to the pool, and he said, "I cannot swim."
you
So
know,
I think what you're doing and the purpose you're doing it for. I mean, I think it's admirable. What some people don't know. I ask a lot of questions before we ever do the podcast, but I do this because I mean I don't know about people. I mean, you and I chop it up daily, but sometimes we just talk about nothing. How you doing? How what's going on? But to see somebody who wants to do something, whether or not people realize being able to swim, it can be a life or death thing. I mean, it
yeah,
sounds silly, but I watch Final Destination. I watch all the Final Destination. I look at all the bad scenarios. And what if you're in that bad scenario where you get near a pond and somebody knocks you in and boop, there it goes. So I know it's kind of silly, but at the same time, I think what you're doing and the reason you're doing it is important. And I don't want to make this a black thing, but I mean, you did bring it up. It is sort of a common thing
it is.
that I
I mean, it's
experienced where black kids from inner cities typically don't. They're not educated on it. So I think what you are doing is amazing, man. I really do.
nice. I mean, it's no secret. A lot of kids when they're growing up that are black, and not even only black, Hispanics too, and is we're not introduced to swimming like we are, but we aren't. Most especially with black parents, is like, all right, throw you in, swim, make it to the side, survive on your own, right? That's how a lot of black parents have done, will do, and but so many black kids also are into basketball, they're into baseball, they're into football, so they don't pick up swimming as a sport. Another challenge for me is keeping kids interested in swimming because there's so many kids that start off at 3, 4, 5 and they do it until they get 14 and they're burnt out of it. So trying to get kids into the sport, get them into swimming, and keeping them interested in swimming is really important. And that's one of the challenges I face. But I think with my teaching style, like it keeps kids a little bit more interested in it because I'm like a fun guy who likes to keep it fun because we've all been to school before. We know when we have a fun teacher compared to a boring teacher, how your interest level can go up and down. So with swimming, you can do a little bit more, right? So I
Right.
try my best to keep it interesting, but yeah, it is something that I wish uh, the black community, Hispanics too, because I would say in my area is a heavily populated Hispanic area. So a lot of kids we get there don't know how to swim. And I love to see everybody come in, but I definitely love when I see blacks or Hispanic kids come in and learn how to swim. And it's really good to see that parents, I think nowadays are more getting the kids more involved in it. Because I think more people now growing up, like people my age and our generation, seeing how important it was, where our parents were like, you just toss them in, they'll be fine. So I think the importance of it has changed, and more people are getting into it. So,
To
and
be
I don't get upset.
to be
Go ahead.
fair, my brother was the one that taught me in. He was the one. I don't think my mother was willing to do it, but my brother, sure as heck, shoved me in the pool, and he grabbed me when he realized I was not swimming. But I mean, he did that a couple times until he's like, "Hey, you figured it out, right?" I mean, you're
Yeah,
right. Our generation kind of was like, "Hey, sink or swim. If you sink, I'll eventually come get you." But
yeah, I can get you.
that is, which again, it's why I think you sharing what you do is so important because I don't think people realize while it's something that a lot of people are afforded the opportunity to, a lot of people are not.
Right. No, no. A lot of kids in a lot of communities aren't afforded the chance to swim because their pools don't work or they just don't have them. But I think now lately there's a lot more places you can go, like Dynamo, like the Y, and a lot of colleges like Georgia Tech, Emory, they're like opening up their pools for people to go to give people more of an option that wasn't necessarily there, 10, 15 years ago, right? Most time you had to belong somewhere to go swimming. Or a lot of times people don't even know. Like I didn't know Dynamo existed when I was in high school, right? But
Right.
now I think a lot more people know about these places and they see it. Michael Phelps did tons for the sport of swimming by winning all those medals, right? So I think swimming has grown in popularity a little bit. I think parents, again, now understand like, all right, we got to get our kids swimming because like our generation, we realized that growing up, like, ooh, we need to put our kids in swimming, like my kids in swimming, right? So it wasn't as big when I was growing up, but now it seems like it's bigger. And I'm just trying to keep it going, man. I'm just trying to keep it going. Ultimately, my dream job would be one day, outside of like having my own thing, would be to work for the Hawks too. I would love to do both. If I could do both, man, I'd be set for life.
Hey, I mean, there's nothing wrong with dreams. There's nothing saying you can't get there, brother. Uh,
No, man, I'm working on it. I'm working
hey,
on
man.
it.
I
I'm
mean,
trying to.
we all have dreams, and sometimes we get them, sometimes we don't. But I think having them is the important thing. The reason we keep pushing, the reason we keep wanting to do better, whether it's for us, for our kids, for our family, for the people we know, or just to do it. I feel like having those dreams is important, and saying them out loud is just as important.
I think so many people are defeated before they even start by not trying. And little do you know, like if you just put like a little bit of effort into it, you'll never know how far you can go. Because like I said, I didn't expect to be working at this job for 14 years. I just, when he told me about it, I was kind of on the fence because like I don't really like swimming that much. But I was like, I'll go, I'll try it. And I never knew what it would turn into. So if people really want it with any job, follow their dreams or even put forth effort, man, you don't know how far you can go by just trying. I mean, it's really remarkable how hard it is for people to like want to take a chance. But when you do, you never know what you're gonna get and what direction you're gonna go in. I think people disqualify themselves before they even start. And that's why I tell kids in swimming, don't think you can't do it. Just try. Just try and see what happens.
Right. Hey man, I got nothing to add. That was great. We are at the point of the show. We're at the end. We're at the end. Cordarro, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you sharing
Man,
uh, your
I,
feelings on
I'm,
sports as my guy. And I have a handful of guys from the Atlanta area, but I appreciate you as one of the guys I trust. In the Atlanta area, coming on and talking, sharing what you do, which again I cannot overstate how important it is. Is there anything that you want to promote? Again, you want to drop the name of the program you use. You want to throw out some words for us? We'd appreciate it.
well, I'm at Dynamo Swim Club in Shamley. I don't know if I'm gonna post this. Hopefully, I can. If you're okay with it on my page, so some
Hey,
people
of
can
course, of course, of course.
get some more eyes on it. I just want to say, I've been talking about doing a podcast, whether it's myself or with my friends since the pandemic. Like I legit went out and bought a computer and all this kind of stuff for it and never did it. But when you brought it up and I was like, I would love to do it, and he said, yeah, this really motivated me to tell my friends like before I did this, like, hey, let's use this app, let's try this, and I'm gonna try my own just because like I said, put myself out there and try. And you helped me want to do this because I really enjoy this. And I didn't know how it was gonna be because I never done it before. I just knew I didn't know how to talk. So thank you for bringing me on and giving me the motivation to want to do this, like with my friends and you, of course. Definitely love to have you on if I'm able to start my own podcast.
And I'd love to have you back, man. Maybe I
Yeah,
will
anytime.
be gone later in the year out of the country, but I will be lining up guests even though I'm gone. Maybe later into the Falcon season, we'll have you back on and we'll talk.
Absolutely. Oh man, we can always talk Falcon football. Always. And talk
All
Brady too.
that's what we have. That's what we have the Discord chat for. But again, love to have you back on, man. Um,
All right, man.
as 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 always with every show, I'm going to keep promoting these guys because again, one pushed me into starting. Follow Taj TV, Taijh TV. We post twice a week. It's a great show. It's got a different mindset. If you have some online religious needs, my buddy Marcus over at Truth Valley Church, they're out of Arizona. He's a great guy. He's doing great things through God. Again, I know religion's not for anybody, but if it is, Truth Valley Church on Facebook, great group of guys over there. Uh, this has been another episode of Waiting Room Podcast. I appreciate everybody that tuned in. Cordarro, again, I appreciate having you on. It's fantastic. You got a haircut to get to. Get
I
to it,
do.
brother.
I'm
Until next
a
week,
wedding to do.
wedding. Hey, man, proud of you. Until next week, guys. We'll see you.
All right.